Hey, Francine. Hi, Wade.
Hi, Bryce.
Hello,
Hey, how's it
welcome.
going?
Expecting more people, or is it going to be a tiny group?
People are just gonna trickle in.
Okay.
Susan is coming in. Jenny, how's it going?
Is it cold there?
Yes,
Freezing.
it's cold.
Yeah, it's 40 out here in Northern California. That's pretty cold for us for spring.
Oh man.
We were
So
just
it did hit this area too. It didn't, they said across the Midwest, but 40 in the morning and 40 during the day is kind of unusual for the
Where are
East Bay.
people calling in from? Because Francine, you're from the Bay, right?
I'm from Berkeley, California, across
Oh,
the bay from San Francisco.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's
Where's everybody calling in from? Feel free to write in the chat too.
I see Brooke brought her snow with her.
Mhm.
yes. No for everybody.
How's it
we were
going?
saying it is down into the single digits here in Cincinnati where we're at.
Whoa.
But California sounds very warm and sunny.
Yeah,
Very nice.
comparatively.
Oh, really? 44 is warm? Okay,
It's
that's
all relative, right?
the new
Yeah.
warm.
All right. I think we'll let more people obviously just come in as we go, but I'll just jump into things just to keep things within the hour. Welcome back to all of our regulars, our mindful poetry regulars. But if you're a newcomer, this is our third Mindful Poetry Moments virtual gathering of the fall winter season. And this is actually the first one of 2025, leading up to National Poetry Month in April this year. My name is Patrick. I work as the content and event coordinator here at the Well. And I've been primarily handling mindful poetry for this season. So couple quick bullet points for those that are new here. Mindful Poetry Moments is a core program of the Well. Um, we bring in a wide group of collaborators, poets, community leaders, mindfulness practitioners to provide folks with a mindful approach to poetry. For 5 years, we've been hosting these short poetry workshops, and the concept is very simple. We begin with a meditation, we read a poem, we discuss a poem, and then we engage with a prompt. We write, and then we share. And all of this is contained within the hour. And in the spring, when we do these gatherings, the poetry that you write will be eligible to be in our poetry compilation that we release annually. Additionally, since not everybody is able to make these meetings, but we have a lot of people that are interested in viewing these mindful poetry gatherings, we will be recording this session. So if you're not comfortable being included in the recording, if you just don't want to and you still want to share during the session, just feel free to email me afterwards and we can edit you out of the video.
I'll just say one thing too. Zoom will only record you if your mic is on. So if your mic is off, you can do whatever you want on the camera.
I think without further ado, I'm going to introduce our mindfulness facilitator for today. Today we have Kim Jennings. Kim is a poet, an educator, a healing-centered coach. Kim supports organizations and individuals in developing mindfulness, creative, and communication practices that foster individual and collective healing and well-being. And so, yeah, I'll pass the baton to you, Kim, for today's mindfulness meditation.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I'm grateful and excited to be here with you today. This mindfulness practice will be an invitation and an opportunity for us to settle into the space together, to ground ourselves and begin to plant the seeds for what we may explore and uncover in our time today. So if it's comfortable for you, I'll invite you to close your eyes now. If now or at any point you prefer to have them open, that's fine too. In that case, you may want to pick a point on the wall or on the ground and soften your gaze so that your focus is more internal. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment and notice your body. Notice the outline of your body in space. Also take a moment and just notice, is there anything your body might be asking for that would allow you to be in a more comfortable or supported position? If you need a little neck roll or shoulder roll or seat adjustment, if you need a little sigh out, whatever might help you settle in. And then again, I'll ask you to come back to noticing the outline of your body in space. If it's accessible to you, you might begin at the top of your head. And if it feels okay, you could try tracing the outline of your body from the top of your head down both sides of your neck, around your shoulders, down your trunk, to your seat, down the sides of your legs, down to your feet, noticing again that outline and where you are in space. Now, if it's accessible to you, maybe notice your feet specifically. Maybe notice where they are. Are they against the chair or the floor? And notice the weight of them and the pressure against whatever they might be leaning against. Now, as you feel your feet, maybe imagine them like the roots of a flower, extending down into the soil below us. And like the wild iris, they extend both down and they extend out horizontally, providing us stability and anchor so that we feel grounded and steady, whether we're glowing in the sun or faced with wind, rain, cold. Imagine how our roots also extend out sideways and they absorb nutrients from the soil, from the ecosystem around us, just as we may absorb nourishment from our environment and the community and offerings here today. And now if you want to imagine coming up from your roots through the trunk of the body or your stem, if we're flowers, to the top of your head. And imagine that your head is the flower of the iris in full bloom. You might want to take a moment and pick a color that's yours. Imagine yourself, I'm picking purple. There are a whole range of colors you can pick. Imagine yourself like the iris bathed in the sun, hydrated by the rain. Feel yourself nourished and brilliant with the beauty of yourself in full bloom. We, the irises, as the Farmer's Almanac says, are named after the Greek goddess who rode rainbows. And we come in many magical colors. We're friends with the butterflies and hummingbirds. We are part of nature's ecosystem. And if you want, you can take a moment and notice that interconnection with all of nature around us, with all of the other radiant and vibrant flowers who are here with us on this call today and in our lives. And if you want, can take a moment and offer gratitude to ourselves and to everyone on the call for making space for this today. And then when you're ready, if you want to start bringing your attention back to the screen, and feel free to open your eyes when you're ready. Welcome, everyone. And now I want to thank Patrick and Bryce for all their work coordinating and the opportunity to be here with all of you, and all they do to create such a thoughtful, intentional, and compassionate space. And I have the great pleasure to introduce Elena Estella. I'm sorry, Elena, I didn't get a chance to ask you how you say your name. Elena Estella Green. Yeah. She is a poet and native New Yorker who moved to Cincinnati. She studied creative writing at NYU Gallatin School and earned a BA from the College of New Rochelle. She was a recipient of a co-fellowship with the Well last year, and her work has been included in several anthologies. So we're excited to have her reading and guiding the poetry discussion. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kim, for that wonderful introduction
Thank you
and
so much, Kim.
beautiful meditation. Did you say something, Patrick?
I just said thank you as well.
Oh, yeah.
Really nice.
Love that you included the wild iris. It's a great segue into this brilliant poem. Thank you for that. My colors were gold and purple. And it's funny because purple is a predominant color in the wild iris. And it's also the color of rebirth. So I'm so happy that you're here. It's a nice, intimate group. And we'll have extra time to read our work after the prompt. Also, I'm so excited to present this wonderful poet. She's a New Yorker like me, so we have a lot in common. We also did not go out of high school into college and a graduate school route. She took courses in poetry, and then eventually she was accredited and became a professor of poetry in Vermont, a college in Vermont. But she took courses at a really good schools in New York City. She also is an autobiographical poet as opposed to a confessional poet. The poet's voice usually is hidden in nature. This whole book, The Wild Iris, I recommend it. It's filled with poems of flowers speaking to a master gardener. And you could suppose it's a divinity or just the gardener. And The Wild Iris is one of her most famous poems. And she was a Nobel laureate. She was also the poet laureate of the United States. So without much ado, if Patrick would post the poem, I'll attempt to do the poem justice. Thanks, Patrick, or Bryce. I hope everyone can hear me and see the poem. The Wild Iris. At the end of my suffering, there was a door. Hear me out. That which you call death, I remember. Overhead, noises, branches of the pine shifting, then nothing. The weak sun flickered over the dry surface. It is terrible to survive as consciousness buried in the dark earth. Then it was over. That which you fear, being a soul and unable to speak, ending abruptly, the stiff earth bending a little, and what I took to be birds darting in low shrubs. You who do not remember passage from the other world, I tell you, I could speak again. Whatever returns from oblivion returns to find a voice. From the center of my life came a great fountain, deep blue, shadows on azure sea water. The Wild Iris by Louise Glück. Thank you. I hope this poem has the same impact that it does me. It's just fascinating that a fragile flower can embody the human experience. And she does it so skillfully and simply. I'd like to hear people's reactions. Did you like the poem? Did you have a tough time with it? Anyone can jump in and just unmute.
I love, I love the poem. I'm excited that you chose this poet. I didn't realize it, and then I got all giddy when I realized that was what we're going to do. My question was, I wonder where the writing started on that poem. You could start that poem in a lot of different places.
Good point, Wade. Yes.
Could you share the poem on another screen?
I could put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, or just, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can
Share the screen again.
Yeah, sometimes they have a side-by-side share. Yeah, great, thank you.
I can see people on the side here, so feel free to jump in. What phrases struck you? Like, was there a phrase that really took you by surprise?
I liked how the passage from our struggles and our fears of this earthly human form, and it's a freeing up and of noticing things differently. I love that kind of rebirth, but also a renaissance of a loss, but a gain, and how our perspective of, oh, only our human struggles, and yet this loss of this consciousness, this fear, these struggles, these human bodily forms, and it takes root in a different form, and it's the freeing up and a beauty that now you're casting on others, because sometimes we just don't realize how, as a human, we cast our form with this beauty in nature, cast a form on us humans, and we just don't notice it always. I loved that.
Thank you, Amy. I love how using the flower, the wild iris, it's so accessible using a flower instead of a human sort of spouting these feelings. You know, it almost lets you enter deeper, especially for those who love nature. You know, you can kind of relate to a moment in your walks or hikes where you encountered something so beautiful, yet so almost tragic, the fragility of it. Because face it, human life is fragile. So that's what I love about this work. And it's a very simple poem, but it's deceptive. You know, it's dealing with some heavy material, life, death. And it gives me hope that, you know, there's so many things in this world that don't just go away forever. The trees leave again in spring, the flowers come up. I love it when crocuses peek through the snow. You know, it's just a great contrast and a hope of spring will come again. It's hard to believe in, you know, -0 degrees, but it gives me great hope. Anyone else before we turn to writing?
Seems like Deb wants to say something.
Oh,
Um,
yes, Deb. It's
Louis,
hard for me to
she's,
see you.
yeah, she's one of my favorite poets,
Mhm.
and she writes a lot about death.
Yes.
She's the one that wrote Crossroads, My Body Now That We Will Not Be Traveling Together Much Longer. I just love that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I begin to feel new tenderness towards you. So she's been anticipating death for a large part of, I mean, for as part of her work.
Right.
And there was a movie that just came out recently about uh, somebody who had done assisted suicide. It starred Julianne Moore and um,
Tilda Swinton.
yeah, thank you.
The other room, is that what it's?
Yes, yes, in the
Yeah,
other
I
room.
haven't seen it yet. I want to.
I saw it. It was okay, but it reminded me a lot of Louise Gluck. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not how you pronounce her name, too. It's
It's Glick.
Glick.
It's like Glick, but it's spelled Gluck with the, what is those two dots called? A diphthong?
Yeah, yeah, something. So it's Glick. Yeah,
Yeah. Her parents were of Russian Jewish background and some German, I think.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the name was German.
Mm-hmm. There's some comments in the chat I'd like to share. Are you done, Deb?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I really contributed a lot. Let's
And
see.
Jenny also wants to she's had her hand raised as well.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. I think what really strikes me about this poem is the hear me out. What
Mm-hmm.
you that which you call death, I remember. I feel like it's also saying that in a way, to me, it's saying this isn't about death because nature, there is no death, right? It's a continuum. And so it's almost telling us look to nature because there is no death itself, like what you call that which you call death, I remember. If it's death, there would be no remembering. And so there's sort of, I don't know, there's sort of an interesting thing to me where I feel like she's almost pulling away from a human experience and being so expressly nature bound that it almost feels like it's separating me from it in a way that I love, like not,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. My feeling is, I don't know if anyone has ever had a near-death experience, but it's kind of like that where you're fully aware, but you're not present, but
Mhm.
you're fully aware. And how she goes into, you know, where there is a period of dormancy, you know, in the poem, then it was over. You know, that which you fear being a soul and unable to speak in the stiff earth. Like, that's a very good term, the stiff earth, like an inertia of a kind. But then there's a rising where anything that comes back from oblivion has a voice. That's very comforting. That could also mean anyone who's had a trauma, and there usually it takes away your voice, your expression. But if you get through it and not push it away, but go through it, your voice comes in. My voice didn't come in till, you know, nearing old age. So now they can't shut me up, but I just want to does anyone else have their hand up?
I just actually wanted to jump in really quick, jumping off of
Yes.
Keith's point. I also kind of latched on to that hear me out line.
Mm-hmm.
And, I sort of saw it actually in the other way, where you see this as like kind of like a poem that's so intensely centered around nature, but maybe this is just the self-obsessed poet in me thinking, but I feel like the poem is also like there's a lot in here about self-expression as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the notion of like a voice carries through the entire poem. That line, "Hear me out," um, that soul being unable to speak, and like I think most significantly, it's the voice that like allows for the fountain to bloom. Um,
Yeah.
so I think maybe pertinent to this particular group. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Experiences like this open up a lot for self-expression.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. That's very insightful. Yes, it is about voice. Most poems are about poems. So yeah, definitely. And I never made that connection of the great fountain. My life came a great fountain, as she's freed. She's free to express herself. So thank you for that. I just want to read the few things that are in the chat and then we'll start.
I also, when you're done with that, I can't figure out how to raise my hand, so I'll make a.
Who's speaking? Kim?
It's Kim, yeah.
Okay, of course. No, just a second. I'm trying to see the beginning. So from Wade, it's terrible oblivion, a soul unable to speak verses. And then from Bryce, love. He loves shadows on azure seawater. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but it's quite beautiful. Let's see, Amy, a feeling of rebirth and transcendence also. I agree. And Francine, I thought I'd make you happy, but you says this is a dismal poem. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, I just felt it was depressing. It was somebody else's idea. Sorry. Yeah, I felt like it was depressing, somebody else's idea of life and death, and it wasn't mine.
Uh-huh.
It didn't have to be mine, but it was very dismal.
You
I
didn't
mean,
get
it
a
was just
feeling of rebirth or hope.
no, and
No.
I didn't get the feeling like she was talking for a flower, speaking
Mm.
up for the iris. It's not my idea of flowers. For me, flowers are joyful,
Mm.
and they think in the Bible they're referred to as the little glories.
Yes.
That they so I didn't get any of that
Uh-huh.
from this poem. I had to write against it
Okay.
when I
Well,
wrote my poem. So no, it wasn't good because I don't want to write conflict poems.
okay.
I was with a group that this lady intentionally wrote conflict poems. I
Uh-huh.
mean, she read conflict poems to get a reaction of the group, and I realized that was draining my my energy to write
Mm.
poetry, and that it was taking me in the direction of a writer's block. So I pulled out before I got to that level,
Right.
and that's why I kind of just decided to write my own whatever. I just decided to chart my own course. I mean, she's charting her own course.
He's,
So
I hope that every
yeah,
poem
so
does.
and that's kind of what we all have to do in life.
Right.
Whatever we're dealt with, we're we are not, it's not all circumstances how we react to something
Mm-hmm.
that comes under our area of charting our course. That's our challenge. So my challenge was not to like this poem and write anyway.
100%. Your input is valid and you're a faithful member of Mindful Poetry Moments. So I appreciate that. Who's your favorite poet? I'm just curious.
I don't have one actually. I haven't
No,
figured that out yet. I'm kind of eclectic, so I don't
maybe
really
by
have a
next
favorite
month.
poet. I mean, I just I read a poem and then I forget it kind of sort of.
Mhm,
And so I'm try to stay in the present, not in the past. So it's
mhm,
kind of hard to relate to a poet. I mean, it's kind of hard to take a poem to heart when I'm kind of traveling forward and their poems they've already been written, so they're already past. So I'm trying to stay present. So it's kind of a constant battle for me. It's like
mhm.
don't stay in the past, stay in the present. And I'm watching my voice changing, going in different directions and things like that too. So I'm trying to stay faithful to that.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I attach to a poet, then I'll be trapped in that period.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Welcome to
We
Beach.
have to kind of move on.
Para continuar en español.
Okay, claro que sí. But let me just finish the chats. I can feel that in my body from Wade and from Brooke. Hi, Brooke. Joy and despair feel like a mutual interbeing that are alive in flowers and the human experience. Thank you. And Kim, your final thought before we write?
I was just going to note for me when I read it, there was this interesting, I think were a lot of unexpected moments for me in the transitions. And there's something in the language that gave a very kind of wintry tone. And
Mhm,
yet for me, when I read it, I also had that sense of it not being an ending, but really being about renewal. And
mhm,
so this time of year, when a lot of people are in the cold, to me, it felt a bit like coming out from winter into spring, also as like another metaphor. So, yeah, I don't know quite how to put it into language, but just um, there were a lot of unexpected moments as you changed stanzas for me that I thought um, were interesting and um, kept me curious, I guess. Maybe
sure.
that's the way to say it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's see how I'm gonna do this. I guess everyone wants to keep the poem up. And
I'll keep the poem up, and then if you have the prompts, you could send them in the chat.
yes, I'm trying to get to my desktop. Okay, I got it. Now, this is just a suggestion. If you have a different way of going, but I encourage you to write. I'm sorry, I had a little. Oh my goodness, I think I lost my prompt.
Uh, do you have it maybe just off the top of your head, or we could dictate and then write it in the chat as well.
Could someone type it because you know it? I'm not a multitasker.
Bryce is on it.
I'm on it. I'll type it in.
So basically, I suggested, I'm so sorry, I just deleted the prompt.
No worries.
Basically to write a poem that imbues an inanimate, not inanimate, but something from the natural world, like a cicada, a peony. I even put in the kitchen table, you know, to give it voice, and it's your voice. And to imbue it with the human experience like joy, grief, love, anger, or write a poem why you don't like this poem. that might be working for you. I do encourage, is that enough of a prompt? Bryce?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it's basically emulating the poem, but through your experience. You know, how does Beatrice do it? How does Brooke do it? How does Francine feel? You know. So how much time do we have left?
I
Or
can start the timer for 10 minutes in just a moment. And then we can come back about 10 or in
And
10
rem-
minutes.
okay, great. And
So
remember, this is a fast ride. It's a stream of consciousness. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You can work on it later on if you want it published. So happy
absolutely.
writing, everybody.
I'm gonna start the timer now and we'll be back at 3:46.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
We'll take about another 2 minutes.
You could kind of wrap up what you're doing. We have about 14 minutes, so that leaves us maybe like 12, 13 minutes to share whatever poetry came up, whatever, any kind of writing that arose from this prompt. I'll let you, Elena, pick
Okay.
out.
If you want to do the raise hand thingamajig, or just raise your hand so I could see you, and we'll start sharing. Hopefully this was a fruitful time for you. It's short but sweet, but you can always go back to it.
Absolutely.
Who wants to kick us off? Oh, here we go. Jenny.
Thank you. This was fun. I don't think I've ever done this, and I'm a gardener, so. Um, it's called Dahlia. They say my life will be extended by the ripping of my body from my earthly home. I've spent cool, wet springs unfolding and growing tubers, feeling the worms come to the surface only to be picked like my cousin carrots from the ground. The pounding of the rain on this leaky roof stops suddenly, and sun sparkles like stars through the drying earth. It's summer, and it's my time, and when the leaves start to unfurl and reach out over the smallest flowers, I know it's my time will come, and people will caress my blooms, cutting them or just touching like the tickles of bees' wings on my luscious centers. The fall rains come again in clouds and rot, and the shovel lifts me out of the earth, returning not what I was, but what I am, to a dry crate forgotten until I'm brought back to my earthly home.
That was awesome. I love that. The dahlia. It's a beautiful flower. And although there's a lot of ripping and shoveling, it's still hopeful. Maybe I'm just a cockeyed optimist, but I still feel the hope in it. Thank you so much. Mr. Wade?
Right. Um, the pebble rises to the surface like gas from the ocean floor. Not only pebbles, stones, rocks, mountains, mantle, core, beginning lightless, only inner light fueled by heat and pressure. Churned is a good word. Until free, now fish friend, not fish really, but the deepest fish, the first fish, until become the opposite of down, with nearly nothing left between myself and sky, wind flavor, sun seared, lightning struck until tumbled down, river rider, weightless mass, floodplain dotting and isolated, then back underground, not ground, fated to be finally plucked and placed with intention in a folly, in a garden.
Thank you, Wade. That's so powerful. It kind of slayed me a little. It was really powerful. Miss Rebecca.
Daylilies. Along the curved road, I await my season, closing in the darkness, widening by the light. Blooming is not constant. Bright flowers along asphalt, but my warmth is only for those select hours when I feel your rays reaching towards me, when I feel your warmth encouraging me and your brightness illuminating my color. Along a curved road I grow, but along your gentle embrace do I bloom and learn that love passes through like a day lily's bloom. Even for the dark hours, your beauty still sits with me.
Thank you so much. It's so lyrical. If I could hear the music going on. Wow, the daylilies. Usually they're hanging out at the grocery store, looking a little pitiful, but now I have whole new respect for them.
They used to grow wild along one of the roads where I grew up, and it was
Did
always
they?
exciting when they would bloom and then not bloom, and depending on the hours of day. And it was always exciting to see what hour we would drive by them.
Oh, awesome. You could tell I'm from the city because I only see flowers in grocery stores. But here in Cincinnati, I do see them. Thank you. Let's see. Is it Bryce or Patrick? Bryce.
I'll
Thank you.
go, yeah. I was thinking about the tree outside my window in the city. I have 5 senses, but this tree on the street only has one. It can't see the cars parked in the snow, or the man carrying a bag of food from the store, or the woman walking 2 dogs at once who are also seeing the cars and the man and maybe me. This tree can't hear the shouts across the street, or the steady hum of traffic, or the chime of the store bell as the man walks out. This tree can't taste the salt in the dry winter air, or the coffee in my hand. This tree can't smell the smog or the falafel being cooked next door. But this tree can feel like I do. It can feel its ice-covered branches shaken by the winter wind, and its roots confined by ceilings and walls of concrete, and the sun on its dormant buds saying, "Not yet, not yet." And so it waits until it knows, and the sun knows, and I know now.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I could picture you doing that, having your coffee and looking out the window or, starting your day and there's this tree.
Yeah,
Present
well,
but silent.
always wondering what it feels. Yeah,
Oh,
when it's not really doing anything.
that shows great empathy.
Mm.
Thank you. I see any more hands, little hands?
I could share too if nobody else wants to at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
This one is untitled. Uh the force that drives the green fuse pushed slow these summers. The weight of bare toes crunched upon the amber grass. The diamond shade of Grandpa's tan roof raised a dark scythe running east to west every day along the dry lawn. He wanted to live beyond his means, let go. Home was in his handshake. We buried him in our chest and not the earth. Brother sold the house last Tuesday. Maybe the light freed. Maybe the green palm will brush my cheek once bloomed.
Mm.
I think it's because we're running pretty close to 4 p.m.
Yeah,
I'll just list off a couple announcements for next month, and then Kim, I believe, will be doing a final read of the poem, and I'll share our screen here. So like I said, if you want to be edited out of the recording of today's workshop, feel free to email me, patrick@thewell.world, and I can do that. Feel free to email me your poems that you wrote today as well. And then we could share that on our website. Uh, Next month on February 19th at the same time, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be joined by Ellen Austin Lee as our poetry facilitator, and Stacy Sims will be back from Cambodia, and she'll be serving as our mindfulness facilitator. And then we'll be exploring the poem by Gabrielle Calvacaresi called Achingly Beautiful, How the Sky Blooms Umber at the End of the Day Through the Canopy. So we hope to see you there. Yeah, I think not to belabor anything. Kim, would you like to do a final reading of the poem?
Sure, be happy to. Thanks. The wild iris. At the end of my suffering, there was a door. Hear me out. That which you call death, I remember. Overhead, noises, branches of the pine shifting, then nothing. The weak sun flickered over the dry surface. It is terrible to survive as consciousness buried in the dark earth. Then it was over, that which you fear, being a soul and unable to speak, ending abruptly, the stiff earth bending a little. And what I took to be birds darting in low shrubs. You who do not remember passage from the other world, I tell you, I could speak again. Whatever returns from oblivion returns to find a voice. From the center of my life came a great fountain, deep blue shadows on azure seawater.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Elena, and thank you everyone for participating today. Yeah, so hopefully we will see you next month.
Thank you
Thanks
so
again
much,
for
everybody.
organizing.
Elena and Kim, would you like to stay on for a little bit?
Sure.
After everybody leaves.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
So
everyone.
good to see you.
Thanks, Elena. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great afternoon.